Hey guys, as promised, I am here live on Facebook, close enough to 4, right? I have to say, I'm really starting to really look forward to coming and chatting with you guys. So let me get Instagram on. All right, back again. And for today's little conversation, I'm going to talk about a nutrition tip. Now, those of you that not watch, because you don't watch podcasts, listen to my podcast, you know that the last 2 episodes were with a holistic nutritionist, Ellie Thomas, and we chatted all things holistic nutrition and how to balance hormones. So that particular podcast was aimed primarily at women. So if you haven't listened to it yet, go back and take a listen. I'm on it's Love the Leap with Dr. Renee. I am on Apple iTunes currently. It's going to be Apple Podcasts in the future, Stitcher, Google Play, and Spotify. So check it out. But I do want to highlight a couple things that her and I talked about. And again, I'm not going to go over the whole, hey guys, I'm not going to go over the whole interview because it was 2 parts. So it was well over an hour. So there is a part 1 and part 2. But I chatted about it a little bit yesterday when I talked about the supplement DIM. And then today's video is going to be a little bit shorter, but she talked about 3 key things to do. Now there may be more, and again, we could have talked forever, but 3 key things that she does to help balance hormones. And these may sound very intuitive to a lot of people in the nutrition world, but honestly, a lot of people don't do them. And so if you are someone, if you are somebody who is having your hormones go haywire, maybe you suffer from infertility, you're having problems getting pregnant, definitely listen to that podcast, the 2 episodes. Maybe you're like me, perimenopausal, and having some hormonal issues. You might want to heed some of these tips. So the first tip, and her and I discussed this in length, was that you have to make sure you're eating enough. And I actually encounter this quite a bit when I work with my gals in my fitness group. They come in, I can't lose weight or I haven't lost weight. And when we analyze what they're eating, a lot of times they're not eating enough, right? Because this whole thought of eat less, do more cardio, of course, that's what I had to do when I was competing. But sometimes you fight your body when you do that because you get a condition called adrenal fatigue. And once again, I am not your doctor. So if you want to, I've talked about adrenal fatigue before, but a lot of times you will stress your body so much when you are, even if you're not working out a lot, if you're not feeding your body enough, if you're severely calorically restricted, your body's going to start freaking out. I'm telling you right now, and it's going to be counterproductive. So here you are restricting your calories and not adequately feeding your body. Your body is actually, the thyroid is going to downregulate to protect you because our whole, hey, I'm doing well, thank you. Our body's whole purpose is to stay alive, to survive, right? So if you are not feeding it enough, the thyroid is going to try to conserve energy and downregulate. So you hear it all the time. People think I have a thyroid issue because I can't lose weight, right? So I must have an underactive thyroid. And they might if they're not eating enough because, and I won't go into the details, a couple of things might happen that make your thyroid not be functioning as well as it should be. Not only that, your adrenals are completely stressed, which are the glands, I always call them stress glands, the glands on top of your kidneys that produce the stress hormone cortisol. And when you continually stress out your body, your adrenals shoot out a ton of cortisol. And after a while, you can get what they call adrenal fatigue if, someone's got to get to a shelter, I'm sorry, on Facebook. Your adrenals are basically, they become shot. The cortisol, after producing so much, the production of cortisol might go down or it might be abnormal. Meaning it might not be as high in the morning as it should be. It might be lower, which makes you tired, and it might be higher at night, which makes it harder for you to go to sleep. So if you're not eating enough, that's one thing that might be wrong if you can't lose weight, right? So you have to really look at your nutrition and say, am I eating enough? Am I eating 500 calories a day or 700 calories a day, probably not enough food, right? So, and number 2, decrease your sugar intake, guys. This is like, and when I say sugar, a lot of people just think of like pure white sugar, but you also have to think of all of the sugars in processed food and juices. The natural fruits are fine. Carbohydrates like breads and pastas, that all is converted to sugar, basically. So you really want to watch how much sugar you're having. I'm not here to say go low carb, go paleo, or not paleo, keto, because I don't support keto. I do think there's a role of keto with certain medical conditions, but I do not think that it's a end all be all for everybody to be on keto. And I find there was this huge shift of everyone going to keto because they're like, oh my gosh, I can't lose weight, and it's just the next diet trend, right? So what I am saying though is look at your nutrition and see, are you eating a ton of processed foods and sugars, right? Because that is something you want to take out. You're going to want to move to mostly a whole food based diet if you can. Get rid of the packaged stuff. And I'm not saying like, some people get really nitpicky with packaged, try to, and I always say this, and I have something special coming up in the future where I'm thinking of taking people actually through the grocery store and showing them how to shop. If you shop the perimeter of the grocery store, that is your best bet. As soon as you start going down those aisles, you're getting crap that you really don't need, right? So, your produce section, your meats, your dairy, and sometimes people are very bothered by dairy. You got that, right? And sometimes you end up in the bakery section, right? But if you avoid and only go down for like very like targeted things, go in with a list, know what you're getting, stay to the perimeter if you want to do some browsing. I do that a lot. I'm like, okay, I want to have some extra veggies, so let me go and peruse the produce section, especially if I don't have a list. But have a list if you can and go to the grocery store. And her third tip was increase your healthy fats, okay? And that is, your olive oils, your avocados, hummus is a really good one, nuts, if you can tolerate nuts. I'm not talking about bacon. I'm not talking about, what other fats? Eggs are a healthy fat. I'm trying to think of other healthy fats. I don't know. So, anyhow, make sure you're eating enough. 3 tips to balance your hormones. Make sure you're eating enough. Make sure that you decrease your sugar intake and increase your healthy fats. The only other caveat, what I want to say to you as a little precautionary measure is if you're going to take any of these tips and implement them, if you have had a ton of sugar and carbs in your diet and then you try to cut them all out, I'm telling you right now, you're going to go through sort of a detox, a sugar detox. You're going to get probably tired, achy, brain foggy. Here's 2 solutions. One, just wait it out and it's going to go away. But the other is number 2, cut down slowly. Okay, I'm not giving you these tips and say tomorrow you have to like stop it all. Okay, and I can go on forever about food and nutrition and gut and all that good stuff. But here's one little extra thing I wanted to add in because I don't want to make this video too long. If her and I also had this discussion of how overwhelming it can be for people when you try to do a complete overall of their nutrition, like completely tell them, okay, non-processed, whole food diet, all organic, non-GMO. They're like walk out of there like, oh my God, like I can't do this. And then when they can't follow through on all of the recommendations, they're going to feel defeated, right? So she has a very stepwise approach, and I agree. And I used to also talk to my patients about the same thing. Like, okay, so if you're not going to, I'm a firm believer in organic, especially with certain products. And that includes meats. And if you want more information on that, go listen to the podcast. We delve into meat heavily. So all my meats are organic because, again, these factory farmed animals, the poor things, obviously, they're stressed. So that I can always tell, it's usually the meat is not as tender. They're stressed. Number 2, they're given antibiotics often and growth hormone to grow bigger, faster. And of course, they're in these very crowded farming atmospheres, so they're given antibiotics, obviously, so they don't get, ill. And then we consume all that because all of the stuff goes into their fat, and then we consume it. So organic meats are very important. And like we talked about in the podcast, if you're going to get non-organic, try to get the leanest meat you can, because again, a lot of this crap is stored in the fat of the animal. So number 2, I always recommend getting organic eggs. And if you know a local farmer, try to get their eggs. You're going to see a huge difference. If you crack a regular egg next to like an organic, even like a local farmer's, humanely raised, grass-fed, like out there happy chicken, their eggs are so different. They're higher in omega-3 fatty acids, which is super important. So you're definitely going to want to get organic eggs. And again, I don't always trust organic. Try to get a reputable farmer if you can, or a reputable producer of the meats and the eggs, because I have to say, I don't always trust the local grocery store. And then the other thing I always say, okay, so if we can't do all organic veggies and fruits, which I can't either because, it's very seasonal, a lot of times what I'll do is I might get frozen organic if I can. If they are seasonal and organic, I will get these Dirty Dozen. Environmental Working Group has a Dirty Dozen list. And a lot of times I'll say, go look them up. So if you don't want to look them up, here they are. Strawberries. And right now, strawberries are in season by me. I just got 2 containers of them yesterday. Otherwise, I buy organic. Spinach. I always buy organic spinach and kale. Nectarines, apples, grapes, peaches, cherries, pears, tomatoes, celery, potatoes, and hot peppers. So that's 13. But, so that's the list of highly sprayed fruits and veggies, meaning they have lots of pesticides on them. So basically a lot of times the stuff that they're spraying on these crops, so they is basically to kill insects, right? So one in particular is called Roundup, and basically, it busts open the insect's stomach. And so if you consume that, what's it going to do to you? And I know, yes, you can wash them all off, but it actually gets, if you notice, they're all like things that don't have a skin. So basically these chemicals can get inside of the fruit and the veggie, right? Yeah. Like avocados they have a thick shell, and you actually, so that's protective when they're sprayed, right? So that you might be able to get non-organic or a banana versus a grape, right? So you see where I'm coming from, where like this list and why these foods are on this list is because the pesticides go into the food. So you can wash them all you want, but then you're essentially still eating them. So, and the only other little tidbit, because I can go on forever and ever about something called xenoestrogens and getting estrogens from sources outside of our own production of estrogens in our body. But the one thing I want to say is beware of your plastics, guys. And that includes the lids on top of like the Starbucks coffee where you're drinking out of it, because when plastic is heated, you leach all those chemicals into your body, okay? And it's not good, and it can mess with your hormones, including estrogen. And, I think we're seeing this huge rise in infertility and in male infertilities and testosterone levels being really low. Why? And estrogen levels being really high in men. Why? We have to start asking questions, right? So if you get a Starbucks coffee, just take the top off. If you get something with a straw, if it's a hot drink, because, I actually have a portable, stainless steel straw to bring with me. It's in my purse, so I can drink, potentially out of things, or a like biodegradable straw that's like paper. And if you get the containers at home, store your food. I try not to put my hot food in there. Okay, let the food cool, because we do have a couple that sometimes I have to fall back on when all of the glass containers. So get glass if you can, but if I have to fall back on plastic, I basically I either let the food cool before I put it in there, and I never heat them in the microwave. Okay, or I actually take them out and heat them on the stove, because I try to also limit my microwave exposure. So I can go on and on about like toxins and pesticides and plastics and all that good stuff, and I won't, but maybe another live video in the future. But I hope this helps. So I gave you 3 tips on how to help balance your hormones as given to me by L.A. Townes in our podcast interview. I talked about what, if you have to pick and choose organic, what you should really aim to get organic, and the Environmental Working Group's Dirty Dozen. If you didn't catch them, go visit EWG, Environmental Working Group. They have like a ton of resources as far as even like you got to be careful what you put on your body, sunscreens, makeups, all that good stuff. So they have a list of everything from most toxic to least toxic. So a wonderful resource for all of us. And be careful with your plastics. Okay, guys, I hope this helped. And that is your nutrition tip for this Thursday. All right, talk to you soon. Bye. Bye, Instagram. And bye, Facebook. See you soon.